Okay, so let's talk about burnout. We're going to dive into a really powerful way to fight that feeling of just being mentally fried. And believe it or not, all it takes is a simple timer. It's called the Pomodoro Technique.
You know that feeling, right? You put in a full 8, 9, maybe 10 hours. Your brain feels like complete mush. You know you were busy, but when you look back, you can't quite put your finger on what you actually accomplished. It's such a frustrating and, honestly, super common feeling.
But here's the thing. What if I told you the problem isn't your work ethic? It's not about discipline or a lack of effort. The real issue is that you're pushing up against a fundamental, kind of hidden limit that's just built into how our brains work.
So to really get the solution, we've got to understand the problem first. Let's peel back the layers and look at the science of why our brains get so tired even when we're just sitting at a desk all day.
The big idea here is something called cognitive load. The best way to think about it is to picture your working memory, the part of your brain that's juggling everything you're focused on right now, as a small workbench. There's only so much space. If you try to pile on too many tools, too many projects, things just start falling off. That's cognitive overload.
And that load actually breaks down into 3 types. First, there's the intrinsic load. That's just how hard the task is, and you can't really change it. Then there's germane load, which is the good stuff. That's the mental effort that actually builds skills and long-term knowledge. But the one we can control, that's the extraneous load. Think of this as all the junk, the distractions, the confusing emails, the mental clutter. Our whole goal is to wipe that stuff off the workbench to make room for what actually matters.
And that, right there, brings us to our tool for cleaning off that workbench. It's so simple, but it's designed specifically to work with our brain's limited cognitive budget.
So a little history here. This technique has been around for a while. It was actually developed back in the late 80s by a student named Francesco Cirillo. He used a little kitchen timer shaped like a tomato, Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, to get himself to study. It got a huge boost when software developers started using it to avoid burnout, and now it's pretty much everywhere. The method itself is just beautifully simple. Step 1, pick one task, just one. Step 2, set a timer for 25 minutes. 3, you work on that single task with absolutely 0 interruptions. No emails, no phone, nothing. 4, when that timer dings, you stop right away and you take a 5-minute break. And finally, after you do that 4 times, you take a longer, real break, like 15 to 30 minutes. That's it. That's the whole shebang.
Now this is absolutely crucial to understand. The timer is not your enemy. You're not trying to race the clock here. The timer is your partner. It's a tool that helps you manage your focus by respecting your brain's natural rhythm. It's all about sustainability, not just raw speed. Okay, let's talk about the most underrated and, honestly, the most powerful part of this whole technique. It's not the 25 minutes of work. It's the 5 minutes of doing, well, nothing.
I mean, we've all been told a million times, take breaks, right? But it usually feels like you're just wasting precious time. But what if those moments of quiet weren't just about resting? What's actually going on inside your head when you step away from the screen?
This is so cool. A study back in 2013 looked at the brains of mice and found something incredible. The mice that were exposed to 2 hours of complete silence every day, they actually grew new brain cells in the hippocampus. That's the part of the brain that's critical for learning and memory. So silence wasn't just an absence of noise, it was literally a catalyst for brain growth.
And this just shows so brilliantly that a break isn't passive. Your brain is using that downtime to do some of its most important work. It's sorting through all the new information. It's consolidating memories. It's making connections. Think of it like a librarian tidying up the shelves after a really busy day. That quiet time is when the real learning actually sticks.
This quote just nails it. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. When we're just constantly going, we don't give our brains any time to process. Those breaks, that silence, that's where the breakthroughs happen. That's when the solution to that impossible problem you've been wrestling with suddenly pops into your head.
All right, so this all sounds really good in theory, but let's talk about the data. Does this whole work and rest thing actually make a difference you can measure? Well, the numbers are pretty hard to argue with. Okay, so check this out. This is from a big review of a bunch of studies. The group using the Pomodoro Technique rated their focus level way higher, an 8.5 out of 10 versus just 6.2. They also scored a lot higher on performance tests. And here's the kicker. They got those better results while studying for less time. Better focus, better scores, less time. I mean, come on.
And the correlations tell an even clearer story. The more people use this technique, the stronger their focus got, the better their performance got, and just as important, the more they used it, the less tired and distracted they felt. It's a direct link. Structured breaks lead to better work and way less burnout.
In fact, across several studies, students who used these structured Pomodoro breaks reported, on average, a 20% drop in mental fatigue. 20%! That is a massive difference in how you feel at the end of a long day.
So, the evidence is definitely there. But the real beauty of this whole thing is how flexible it is. It's not about cramming yourself into a rigid system. It's about finding the rhythm that works for your brain.
And this is so important to remember. That classic 25-minute work, 5-minute break cycle, it's a fantastic starting point, but it is not a sacred rule. Think of it more like the default setting that you're encouraged to tweak.
And the research backs this up, showing all sorts of effective variations. Maybe for creative work, you need a deep dive cycle of 52 minutes on, 17 minutes off. For something intense like studying anatomy, maybe 35 and 10 is the sweet spot. Or if you're tackling a huge project, a 90-minute marathon followed by a real 30-minute break might be what you need. The whole point is to experiment and find your personal focus rhythm.
And this all leads to a really fundamental shift in mindset. You've got the old way, hustle culture, which basically says you have to work nonstop to get anywhere. But the Pomodoro mindset flips that completely on its head. It says that intentional rest isn't laziness. It's actually a strategic requirement for doing high-quality, sustainable work.
So look, if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Your brain isn't a computer that can just run forever. It's much more like a muscle. And if you give it structured, predictable periods of rest, it will come back stronger, sharper, and way more focused than before.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. In this crazy, relentless pursuit of productivity, we've come to worship being busy. But what if the science is right? What if the real secret to getting more done is to schedule moments of doing absolutely nothing?